PLD, PJ Campbell, two mediocre white dudes on film. Because frankly, we know you don't have enough of that in your life. So we're here to give you more. And without further ado, here are two mediocre white dudes on film. What's up, everybody? Welcome to PLD Project.
A little monster. So this guy gets to the show late today, gets here late, then has the audacity to also tell me that this is, of all the movies that we talk about, of all the times, he's like, hey, just so you're aware, this is the one where I have to have a hard out. So you have to try to keep your thoughts to the nice guys to less than 90 minutes. Go fuck yourself. And then you try to cut me off at the beginning.
I didn't try. I did. I actually got the sentence.
I'm about to roll this 12-sided dice to see if I break down the door and burn down your house.
Well,
How about that? How about that?
Long way away. Unless you're talking about you can break the door here. Like, is there a way you can break the window?
I'm magic. God damn it. Okay. I'm magic is what I am.
Are you?
Oh, yeah.
No, that's okay. All right, then.
I mean, I know a thing or two. All right? That's all I'm saying. I dabbled with the dark arts.
I drink and I know things.
Yeah, correct. And I bartend and I know things too. So it's exactly the same thing.
Absolutely. Other than that, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm surviving and stuff. I was out of town last week. Thank God we didn't end up recording last week.
Yeah.
I don't know how we would have done it between like going out to the wedding and then showing up back here, trying to watch the things and actually being able to do it. But it was funny because I hadn't had a vacation in a while where I literally like stayed off my phone for the most part and was just so disconnected from the world in like the right way that I was just relaxed.
That's a good feeling sometimes. It really is.
It really is.
Congratulations to our friends there.
Yeah.
What a wonderful wedding it looked like from
the Rileys.
The Rileys are us away. I actually had a tough night last night. I was feeling kind of shitty. Feeling kind of sick. I was supposed to go out and meet our friend Rachel Silvestrini, but unfortunately, it just wasn't in the cards. Luckily, I got some sleep. I feel a little better now.
I'm glad you're feeling better. I was really worried that you were actually going to cancel the entire episode, and I was like, you motherfucker, if we have to not talk about the nice guys, I'm going to burn this whole fucking place to the ground, and I don't know how else I'm to act.
Is that it kind of sounds a little like your Harrison Ford voice? I'm not sure.
A little bit, yeah. And that's almost a little too Beetlejuice. I don't know. I went too far the other direction.
I get it. It's okay.
Hey, the Beetlejuice isn't like terrible.
No, not bad. He's a little dark for Beetlejuice. Like I feel Beetlejuice got a little more of that sense of humor involved.
Hey, I don't. Yeah, that sort of like almost New Jerseyan.
Yeah, there you go. That's perfect.
It's almost like he's from New Jersey. He kind of acts like he's from New Jersey, to be fair.
No, he actually does. You're not wrong. I went to college in New Jersey. I think I met several Beetlejuices while I was there. Not quite.
Beetlegeises.
Beetlegeises, yeah. But you actually should probably lean more into your Harrison Ford because our next show we're doing is Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I'm so excited. I can't believe, like, it's so funny. Like, we got to the end of this one, and I was like, oh, yeah. Like, this is the end of the road of this, like, buddy comedy Shane Black one that we've been doing. And I was so locked into it as a series. And I mean, you don't have to ask me twice to watch all the indie movies. Like, you know me. Like, they're some of my favorites. So I was like, oh yeah, God forbid I have to watch the Indiana Jones movies again and gush about them. If you give me a hard out on any one of those, I swear to fucking God.
I'll keep that in mind. I'll try to keep that in mind.
I will
End me.
I'll burn this place to the ground. Burn it to the ground.
I will try not to take your stapler as well.
Oh yeah, please don't take my stapler. For those of you not old enough to know what we're talking about, please watch Office Space.
Yes, please.
I'm begging you. I made a joke about that the other day at the bar because something wasn't working, and I was like, I'm about to grab. I don't even remember what we were talking about, and like something just wasn't working properly, and I was like, I'm gonna grab this thing, I'm gonna take it outside, and I'm gonna break it like in Office Space to a 90s rap song and everything. And one of the people there was like, what is Office Space? And I was like,
ooh.
And this is where I die inside.
Oh, you're trying to get to that age. You're starting to
yeah.
These are a little. I've been there, my friend. I've been there. Oh,
It
It's
just
not good.
hit wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I have to say, I'm going to put this out there, put it out to the world. If anyone, our listeners, ever wants to know what we are like in real life outside of the show, this is exactly what we are in real life. Because I
oh,
actually
legitimately.
we could have started hitting record like 15 minutes earlier because we've been on this streamer just like bullshitting and talking about Equalizer and Robert Davi and Shane Black's
Us,
career and stuff uh, and
Peter
also
Green.
Peter Green. And it's like the thing we just go and also like eventually at some point one of us goes, all right, I gotta hit record. And then we just
Yeah.
continue our conversation that we've been having basically.
But that's literally how this always is. Like, it's, I had a patron at the bar recently who said, I don't know what it is about you, but you manage to make everyone around you way nerdier than they normally talk. And so, like, the bar always descends into nerd fights and shit when I'm around because I manage to stoke those type of fires in people.
Get out. I'm
Me?
shocked.
Yeah, never. I can't believe it. I mean, who would have thought? So I'm going to this thing this weekend. Just to like really like put this point home. I'm going to this thing out here where I'm basically going to be drinking for charity on Saturday night.
Well, now
Yeah,
that's
right. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's this big event. They do it once a year,
ow.
and they always theme it. And so this year they're theming it to Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and 38 Special is going to be there and like doing a concert and everything. Like it's this whole
Wow.
thing. So people are dressing up. But I couldn't dress as a Fast Times character. But I will dress as a character from the 80s who was also in high school. I ordered an entire Marty McFly outfit down to the Nikes that I am going to be wearing while I go out on Saturday night for this event.
I salute you, sir.
Thank you.
Salute you.
I knew you would. And how could I not?
That's one of the times I wish I had money because I would like rent a DeLorean for the night to
I
come
know,
and drive
right?
everything and really complete the ensemble.
Just really, really finish it off that way. I'm so happy. I almost might not even wear my Apple Watch at this point just because I really want to like sell the vibe and sell the mood.
Vibe.
Yeah.
Oh, then you got to drink a tab, right? Or
Oh, I mean, that's true, huh?
or
Fuck, they
Pepsi
won't
free.
have tab there. I could dream. Oh, dude, I'm gonna be real messed up the next morning. And then the next day, I have like another party that we're doing with all the bartenders. So I'm gonna go like 2 nights in a row of just like.
I'm warning you, you're getting too old for this shit.
I know. Dude, I'm not gonna lie to you. The wedding was already rough.
This is this weekend, you said. This weekend coming up, right?
Yeah.
All right, good. So we're not recording on Tuesday.
No, thank God. Because if it was, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know if I could have made it.
I would have had to Raiders of the Lost Ark by myself.
No, I can't let you do that. That's my second favorite movie of all time.
I know. That was my way of making sure you realize that. That's next. So.
Oh, I'm aware. So speaking of the Equalizer, I got to say, man, for a series that I think is like totally fine, I enjoy watching them, but they're not like heady entertainment. They feel like the kind of movie that my dad would watch on a Saturday afternoon when he turns on TNT. Like they're the ultimate dad action franchise right now. The trailer for the third movie is so good, but I'm also a little tired of it's the final chapter thing that every series seems to be using right now as its selling point.
Why do we have to do that?
I don't know.
I don't know. This is not a series that needs a final chapter. This is a series that like you can end it like it's a final chapter, but don't announce it because like you can always come back for more. You always come back for more. Leave it open.
Did we learn nothing from Indiana Jones? Right. You can go 19 and 15 years between movies, no big deal.
The Last Crusade was not very last, was it?
No, it wasn't. Like, look, I'll give you Guardians. Gunn is doing other things, and like this was a planned final chapter. Cool, fine. Like, go with God. I will give you that one. But even like with the Fast movies, I'm like, look, man, I know you guys were boosting DVD players in 2001. Now you're protecting the Vatican. It's great. We love you. But do we really need to be selling it as the final chapter?
I love that analogy. It's kind of like it's so true. And it's like, wow, this is where we came from.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like look how far we've come, but also like maybe we've strayed from God's light too far. Like maybe this is where we've gone too far. But it was
That was my talk about the John Wick series. To be honest with you, though, you take the first one where he's like taking revenge of because his puppy died, and then all of a sudden the fourth one he's like out in world traveling and
all
fighting
the way in Paris.
Paris,
Yeah.
and it's like.
And it seems like everyone in Paris is just in the underground world, which I love. Like people in Paris, he's getting hit by cars and shit, and no one is blinking an eye. Dude, John Wick 4 was so good.
It was so good. We were covering those.
So
we were covering those after Indiana Jones. So that should be a good fun.
They're going to be really fun to talk about. That's a great series, like stupid fun in the best way. Mm-hmm. But I was going to say the funniest part too of this whole Fast and the Furious thing, they're doing a really terrible job letting people know that there is still another movie. Because everyone I'm talking to in real life thinks that 10 is the last one. And I'm like, no, it is a 2-part last movie. And they're like, what? And I'm like, okay, how do I explain this? They're selling it as a final chapter, but it's the road to the ending is how they're selling it. Right. Because there's still another half of this movie. And they're like, wait, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. I feel
and you're like,
get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing. Like, I mean, Mission Impossible is a little bit like that too. But like at least they have part 1 in the title. In the title. So like you kind of like see that. But like people like casuals, the cages, so to speak, like my cousins, be like that. They're like, wait, there's another one coming after that. I'm like, yeah, there's 2 parts in this one as well. So same thing. At least they got the part 1. I agree. Fast X, I'm kind of like, it feels like this is it. Like I almost forget sometimes. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a second part coming out.
Yeah. I mean, Jason Momoa looks like he's having the time of his life in the movie though.
Jason Momoa is like he is the perfect actor for this franchise at this point.
Like, dude, it's so true. Did you watch the new trailer, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
That line in the trailer where he's like, so what are we blowing up today? What? The Vatican? Man, you guys are going to hell. It's so perfect. And I was like, I'm so glad Momoa is in this. And I don't care how much footage that from Fast 5 they have to keep inserting him in to be like, look, he was there the entire time. I don't care.
It's so Scooby-Doo-ish, and I love it though.
100%. And I had this realization last night. So I watched The Nice Guys, which I promise we are going to get to.
It's very short.
I'm just eating all of our time talking about The Nice Guys so we can bullshit and hang out.
Yep, that's it. That's on you.
But I do what I do. So I watched The Nice Guys, and I'm like, I'm not quite tired enough to go to bed yet. And so I was like, what do I want to put on? And I somehow ended up putting on XXX3, The Return of Xander Cage with Vin Diesel. Terrible fucking movie. And yet I love everything about it. Like, it's so bad. And yet I can't look away. Like, it's just so, he wants it so badly to be Mission Impossible. But then I realized something. And it was something I had never realized before until last night. And it took me being real stoned late at night watching this movie. To realize that Vin lifted so much of the shit from XXX and just put it in the Fast franchise because he was no longer part of XXX. Like, the Samuel L. Jackson character who's like the shady government agent who starts to recruit him because look at all the things that he can do. Kurt Russell coming out of the shadows to get Vin and his crew because look at all the things that they could do. Building a crew of a bunch of people that are not the people that the government would want to use. So he builds his own team with the misfits around him to go on these bigger than life adventures. Like, he just took the XXX stuff and put it into it. And then they were like, hey, do you want to do another XXX? And he was like, sure.
You're not wrong.
I'm not wrong.
It's funny. I probably didn't recognize it because I don't watch the XXX movies very much. I probably saw them in movie theaters, and I didn't really watch them after that. So it's been a while since I've watched them. But now that you mentioned it, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it's like, hey, get a bunch of action stars that you might recognize to be like villains who end up being heroes in the movie. Jason Statham, John Cena. And you're like, what the? Like, I'm just sitting there watching it. And I was like, oh my God, he just took stuff from XXX, planted it into the Fast franchise, and then went back and made another XXX on top of it. I have I don't understand.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Guys, this is the quality content that you come to on this podcast, where I get to be like, so Vin just ran out of ideas. I would not be shocked if we end up seeing aliens at the end of Fast 11 and it turns out like the Furians come down and are like, we're taking you back home, Riddick.
The Chronicles of Toretto.
Yeah.
I'm all in.
Oh my God.
What I'm hearing about from this, though, is that like after we do the Fast series, which we'll eventually do, and John Latrina just woke up in a cold sweat.
Oh my God, it's going to be so long.
When we do that, I think we'll have to do like the Triple X series after that then.
I mean, we could, or we could just not. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, unless you want me. Triple X2 is so bad. It makes my hate for Halloween Resurrection look tame.
Really? That bad? I don't remember it being that bad.
I tried to rewatch it not very long ago, and I was like 45 minutes in and I had to turn it off.
Wow. See, again, like my disdain for Halloween Resurrection comes from multiple viewings and multiple hate viewing because I'm a completist when I watch the series. I can't not watch it. But I have not seen Triple X, the second one, since the theaters. So I don't remember it either way, honestly. I'm like, that was a movie.
I just love that Triple X3, though. Like, the one thing they were like, oh, yeah, we had another movie that didn't have Vin in it. What do we do? So, like, in the third act, spoiler alert for the bad, almost 10-year-old movie at this point, it is almost 7 years old, just to really dive that knife in. But they were like, oh, yeah, we had another movie, and it had Ice Cube, didn't it? What do we do? And in the third act, all the Triple X agents are like losing really badly, and they're all going to die. And it's like this epically dumb moment. And then out of nowhere, a rocket launcher goes off, and fucking Ice Cube walks out. Deuce X Ice Cube. And he goes, X takes care of our own. And he just blows everyone away. It's the best. Like, it's the dumbest moment in the movie, and I love everything about it.
Better than anything that was actually in the second movie, then probably. Then.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's so funny because it's so clear he shot it on a day without everyone else.
Right.
He doesn't actually really interact with anyone in any
his backyard kind of thing.
Yeah, but he just like walks out, X takes care of our own, and you're like, good Lord, someone was paid to write this script and paid to set up a camera to have Ice Cube deliver that line in a way that only Ice Cube can, to the camera. And it made it into the final movie.
You know what? And you're happy about it because
I love it.
You love it.
It's the best. It's awful. Everything about it is terrible, and it makes me happy at the same time.
I kind of want to watch it now. I kind of want to go watch them. You know,
you should, dude. Donnie Yen is in the third one.
I totally fucking forgot that.
Donnie Yen, Tony Jaa, Ice Cube, Sam Jackson, Tony Collette.
Do you have them in your movies anywhere?
They should be. Let me look. I never remember if Sony is one of the ones that is like.
I hate that. Yeah, I hate that too.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm going through. That's a spoiler. That's one of my projects of viewing. I've been going through a lot of PJ's Who's Anywhere stuff that I haven't watched yet. Got to finally watch.
Like I hand out my password to people. What?
I know. I mean, you know. It's a group sharing thing. It's that family viewing thing we do.
Okay, brothers. So here's the bummer.
The
first two are because they're Sony movies. The third one is a Paramount movie, and Paramount doesn't work with them.
Fucking Paramount. Get your shit together, Paramount. Everybody should work with movies anywhere. It makes it easier.
I mean, right? Like between them and Lionsgate, it just feels like sour grapes. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Like, at this point, like, yeah, I agree. It's like they could probably get more out of it if they got work together.
Yeah. Also, I have a complaint. I mean, I don't know who this complaint goes nowhere because it's not going to matter to me or anyone else. I mean, it matters to me. It's going to matter to no one else. Why the fuck do I have to wait 3 months for Scream 6 to land on disc when it hit digital today?
Yeah, that's really weird. I don't know why that would happen.
I know that like they look at people like me who buy physical media as nothing more than like money bags to punch down on at this point. They just want us like we're just collectors at that point.
Right.
And the masses just want digital, and that's fine. But I had to wait 3 months. I just want to rewatch Scream 6, and I don't want to have to buy it twice.
But are you going to? Because I can see you
No,
doing that.
I'm
You're not
going to be a man of principle for once.
Wow, that's very unlike you.
I know. I almost always try to buy shit on digital because I just get impatient. But for once, I'm trying to put my foot down and be better about it because I don't need to double buy something.
You know what? Maybe what I'll do, maybe I'll buy it on digital. I'll give you my movies anywhere pass, and you can.
Paramount.
Oh, it's Paramount, isn't it? God,
yeah.
Damn it.
Paramount hates us, is what I'm getting at.
Paramount sucks. I mean, they're great because I like Paramount Plus stuff, and we could spend the whole hour
talking about Picard. Oh my god! Oh my god!
Before you do that, we're 20 minutes in. And we haven't even started talking about the nice guys, which you're already mad about not being able to get 2 hours on.
I just want to talk more about Picard and how good the finale was.
I agree. We should do that separately at some point. I think we actually should do that separately at some point.
Okay, well, everyone, please, even if you've never seen Picard season 1 and season 2, please, if you have ever watched even an episode or two of Next Gen or any of the movies, please watch the final season of Picard and have all the feels and all the fun for 10 episodes where the Next Gen crew is back together, and it's one of the best things that has ever happened to me in all of television.
And yes, and Patrick Stewart admitted he was wrong to go away from the Next Gen concept for Picard 1 and 2, which I binged Picard 1 and 2. To get to 3, you don't need to at all. You can actually
2 especially. You don't need.
I would say just watch like a video, like one of those the
like explaining videos
or whatever. Yeah, because you can probably get away with that. To be honest with you, and there's a couple things you should know that come into play, but they're not like that important. And I didn't hate them. I didn't even hate 1 or 2. I didn't hate either of them. But 3 is so above and beyond. 3 is so far above and beyond what this whole series should have been the whole time through.
So. It's so funny, like in hindsight, when you watch season 1 and 2 and you look at it, and then you look at season 3, and you're like, they are completely different shows. Like completely different shows.
And part of that's less on Jack Crusher's existence.
If we don't get the Star Trek Legacy show, I'm gonna scream.
I'm going to scream in the streets.
Yeah, like I will fucking riot. That is just how it's gonna go, because I want Star Trek Legacy so bad.
And it's funny. I mean, I come from a very unique point of view here because I love Star Trek.
From your point of view, the Jedi are evil.
But I was always a Star Wars guy. Star Trek was always kind of there. Like when Star Wars wasn't on, I'd watch Star Trek. That's cool. But like I haven't watched a lot of the series. I just recently watched through Enterprise, through Next Gen. I'm doing DS9 slowly now. I'm still in season 1, and I'm toward the tail end of season 1. Now I'm digging it. I'm digging it quite a bit. But I was never a Star Trek guy comparatively. I liked the movies, liked everything about it, but it was never like a passion like Star Wars was for me. Picard's probably my favorite thing. And Picard 3 happened, and I was all fucking in. I was like, I didn't realize I was going to be this nostalgic for something I was never really completely truly passionate about. This is fucking great, though.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. Like you know me. I'm a much bigger Star Wars fan than most things. Although I love Trek, obviously. Like I had a corgi who was named after him. That Captain Kirk. Like I love Star Trek. I grew up watching Next Gen and the original series. I watched Voyager when it was on live. I watched the finale live. Actually, I was real young, but I watched it. Star Trek as a series has been like kind of all over the place in the last 20 years, and like the stuff on Plus had kind of gone up and down. Now, granted, I have not watched Discovery yet, but the fan reaction was something.
One reason I didn't watch it, actually, in a way.
That was exactly why it kept me kind of like at bay, if you will. And then they announced the Michelle Yeoh movie the other day, and I was like, all right, I guess I really am gonna watch Discovery. Like, I want to sit down with it, but like, I always loved Next Gen.
Yeah,
I think a lot of us did. Like, if you were in the age range of where Paul and I are, like in that roughly 15-year span of like people, we all kind of really love Next Gen, even if you didn't like watch Next Gen fully. Like you felt comfort in that, like if it was on, because it was on all the time, you could always just put it on. Like those characters kind of became comfort. And the movies are 3 for 4 as far as I'm concerned in their run. So I like everything about those characters, and I did not realize just how much it was going to hit me and how nostalgic I was going to feel and like how emotional it was going to make me by the time it was over. Like I spent 4 or 5 episodes at least, I feel like, where like welled up because like the writing was so good and they would do something and you were like, what the fuck, man? Like this is so good.
It was nostalgia done right. That's what the main thing was. Like you can have nostalgia and go too far with it or do stupid things with it, but like if it's done right, it is such a weapon. It is such a tool of good storytelling, and it's exactly what it was. Like seeing them together again, getting they teased it out just enough, and they gave it to you when you wanted it. They didn't like I'll throw it out there. One of the things that was negative to me about the Star Wars sequel trilogy, which I think is overrated. I enjoy the Star Wars sequel trilogy, but we never got to see Han, Leia, and Luke back together again in a group. Like we always they had little bits and pieces of them together. They teased it right in this series of Picard, and then we got that moment where they're all back together again, and they made a storytelling point of like, actually, I shouldn't spoil it. So they have storytelling points so they get to see them together again, and it's a magical moment.
They've put it out there though. Like this is a thing. Like everyone that they almost spoil. If you hadn't seen it within the first 12 hours, they straight up spoiled the big reveal of all of it. Like the Star Trek site and Paramount and everyone started posting pictures of everyone back on the Enterprise D.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. That's so. Fair. Like it's okay to talk about it. It's a bummer, but like that's just kind of the world we live in. Is that within 24 hours they were also like, here's all the set photos of them back on the Enterprise D. Here's the story of how we rebuilt it, and they even already put up like a small doc with Will Wheaton being taken through as they talk about it and like rebuilding it from the ground up.
So that's so amazing, and like that's what it is. But the best part about it is like something they can't really tell you and that kind of thing is that it actually really fits the story. It's not like done just to do it. It fits what's needed for the story, and that's what it makes sense. Everything's logical about it. So that's what nostalgia done well is good for. It's nostalgic, but it's also logical and fits the story. So.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that's why it works so well because at the end of the day, I was watching something that put story for nostalgia, but built this nostalgia into the story, and it's kind of what the vibe I've been getting with what Mangold's been talking about with Dial of Destiny, the new Indiana Jones film. Like when it's done correctly, you can lean on nostalgia as long as your story is still prevalent and important and you're not doing it just to do it. And I think that that's the long game that not everyone has figured out. Like if you don't do that correctly, it becomes problematic. Die Another Day is a perfect example of, remember when it came out, they were pushing it as a big deal because I think at the time, was that the 35th anniversary, the 40th anniversary, whatever it was for Die Another Day?
I think so.
Yeah, and it was at that point, it was the 20th movie overall. And so they were pushing it like it had Easter eggs from every single movie and all this stuff. And like the movie is already such a mess. And I enjoy watching it, but it's already such a mess that you're watching it and like all the fan service just feels so fan servicey and it's just not done correctly.
Right. Exactly. Agreed.
Or if you look at a movie I do enjoy more than most people, Rise of Skywalker, the fleet showing up at the end is so fan servicey just for the sake of it. Like there's nothing built into the moments of like Wedge showing up, right? Because Wedge to that point was not a character in this series. Like they never built him out to be, and then suddenly he's there, and you're like, why does that man look like Anthony Daniels outside of his 3PO costume? Because most people don't know who he is.
Yeah.
Now, is it a fun moment to see Wedge? Absolutely. But was it an earned moment that made sense for the story? Not really. It's the little things like that. That's all I'm saying. And that's not. And again, I like that movie, but the perspective of that is that. That's just fan service for the sake of it, right? The ghost is there for no reason. You see the ghost, but why is it there? Oh, because.
I mean, it's more. I don't necessarily agree with you completely on that because I do think that's the bigger overall Star Wars is always a bigger overall thing. Like the Ghost has been part of the rebellion since day one. Wedge is part
I
of
know.
there's books with Wedge in the story, so it makes sense that kind of way too.
I agree with you.
Right.
My point is though is within the movie never goes out of its way to make it a thing. So like fan service is good
Yeah, that's fair.
if you make it a point.
Right.
And it's little things like that where to your also like they probably should have always had the original trio get back together.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Yeah.
They didn't. It is what it is, and we move on.
Yeah.
And it just is. That sucks, but we just have to live with it.
I'll always put out the fan service thing that always gets me. And that's also from the Star Wars thing. Like Rogue One, I love Rogue One, but
I love Rogue One so much.
The cameo of Dr. Evazan and Ponda Baba on Jeddah always bothered me because like it's completely just there. It's like, hey, look at those guys.
Right, 100%. That is the same exact thing where it's like, oh, hey, all of a sudden they are just here,
right,
just to be here because they're recognizable. But you're like, that doesn't actually
make sense because then they have to go off. They got to be in Tatooine soon enough for A New Hope anyway, so they're just on their way, I guess. It just if you're on Tatooine, maybe, but like
it's just odd. Yeah. So anyway, the point is, Picard made me feel all the things in watching it, which was such a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
On a show that really could have been very dangerously put together anyway. Just because you couldn't do worse than Nemesis is the hope, but like Picard season 1 and 2 were already kind of so messy and like not super great to the point that it was like doing this could really just blow up in your guys' face. Like, are you doing it just to save face for what Picard was, or are you doing it because there's a story to tell? No, they had a story to tell, and thank God they did.
Yeah, and it worked very well. And actually, it worked out so well that there is potential for another series.
Star Trek Legacy.
Right.
Star Trek Legacy
would be a great spinoff. That would not be just nostalgia based. It was actually very much so earned at this point. So,
dude, I'm not gonna. This I will not spoil, but I got all the feels in like the last 5 or so minutes of like it's clearly wrapped up, but also kind of setting up the next show. That you're kind of spending time on the bridge of a ship, and they're all kind of there having this conversation about it, and you're like, oh my god. And when you see the person who sits down in the captain's chair, I was like, yes. Yes. Like, give me that show now. I need it so badly.
Mm-hmm.
And now Stewart said he may not be done with Picard. Like, not Picard the show, but the character.
Right.
Because of where the show ends. And he was like, I think I would like to come back, actually, if they do Legacy. And I was like, oh my god.
He's definitely done this before. You know, he was done with Pat. He's been done with Professor X a couple times, it feels like, and he's come back. So I have no doubt that would work. And the story makes sense for him to come back anyway at this point and not be the focal point of the story, which is probably the main key thing. He can kind of come in, do his thing, but it's going to be focused on other people in the story.
It's just nice that he's even embracing it, though, because like for so long it felt like he never wanted to go back, and even to the point when he finally came back, he was like, "But it can't be like Next Gen," and he was like, "And that was a mistake."
Right. He fully admitted it, and that's exactly what needed to happen. And luckily he changed his mind and learned, and that's how we got season 3. I told us we weren't talking about season 3, and here we're at 10 minutes later, we're still talking about season 3.
I told you it was going to happen because it's Star Trek, but okay. We need to move this right along, I guess, because we got only so much time, apparently. Some people have to be busy and have a life, apparently. But we are going to be talking about the 2016 neo-noir buddy comedy, The Nice Guys, written and directed by one Shane Black. And this time, this is a 1970s set film, but it is his spiritual successor to Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, this time starring Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe in what I can only describe as star-making turns for two dudes who are already stars, but like there's something about their roles in this movie in particular that this to me are like career-defining performances.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's just the way that they're written, but the chemistry they have, but that's just kind of how it feels. But we also have Angourie Rice, who it's not her debut, but it's the movie that really puts her on the map as Holly March, Ryan Gosling's daughter. And that's the thing that makes this movie and everything within it kind of work the best, is that unlike Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which it is also a trio movie because you look at it and, Downey Jr. and Kilmer are there with Monahan almost the entire movie. Holly is like the absolute important linchpin to this movie's success, and Gory Rice almost steals the entire thing.
Oh yeah, she actually
And
reminds me a lot of Chloe Grace Moretz
yeah,
in her early career. Very much sort of like a young kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Not prestigious. I'm getting old. Young, not prodigy, young.
up and comer.
Yeah, up and comer. She's. I want to say pretentious. Not saying pretentious. It's.
I don't know what you're trying to say.
Oh God, I'm gonna look it up.
I'm trying to help you, but I don't know where you're going. Are you trying to say that?
Precocious. Precocious. Like that really
Wow, what a
precocious.
word! How fucking early is it over there for you to be using this kind of language?
I know it is what it is. I'm sorry. They're very precocious child. They're young. They're above their age at this point, and she just feels like this is this little girl saying all this stuff, but it makes sense and it adds to the humor about it. And I want to say right off the top of the bat, real quick, I'm going to throw it out there. We save our ratings till the end. I won't rate it, but this to me is probably the perfect example of a Shane Black movie. This is the best that
This
Shane
is
Black
his magnum
ever
opus.
done. Yes, this has been the one that it works the best in. The action, the comedy, have that mix.
The cast,
it's mwah.
yeah, everything about this movie legitimately is so excellent. And every time I revisit it, I'm mad all over again that we didn't get several more of these movies because you have, again, Russell Crowe as Jackson Healy, who is like this old school enforcer type. He grew up in the Bronx, and so he's kind of got a chip on his shoulder. And then you have Ryan Gosling, who plays Holland March, and he's a PI who has a lot of demons because his wife died in a house fire that he could have prevented, which he did not realize. And he's kind of like such a broken relationship with his daughter. And here's the thing is that these characters are really damaged and really broken, but they're likable and there is good people underneath them. They're not great people, but there are good intentions inside of them.
Yes.
And it's the difference between this and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, because something I remember noting is that in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, none of them are likable. None of them are good people. Like they're fun to watch, but they're not good people.
These are good people who do bad things. They're because they're
Right.
flawed. They're just flawed characters. They're just down to luck. They're down. They are all battling demons. They make very poor choices at times, but at the core, you want them to succeed because you want them to do the right thing. There's times where like a couple moments where like Jackson Healy almost murders somebody, and like Edgar Rice is there, and he stops because she's watching him, and he would have done it if she wasn't there. But it's like this stuff like that. They want to become better people, and the characters make them and that's why she's such a linchpin. I think because she really they want to be better people because of her, because of her innocence,
Right.
because of her goodness.
Well, that's why, I mean, to jump fully to the end of the movie, that moment when he's got Matt Bomer's John Boy by the neck and he's going to choke him out. And Holly's like, Mr. Healy, what are you doing? And he goes, Holly, go away. I don't want you to see this.
Right.
And she's like, stop it.
Yep.
Healy, stop. And then that moment where she looks at him and she goes, Mr. Healy, if you kill this man, I will never speak to you again.
Yep.
And like that look in his eye. And this is why the movie is so good. She ends up being this like almost voice of reason, like a conscious that they're missing. And in that moment when he lets go and he goes, you better thank thank this 13-year-old girl. You owe your life to her.
Yep.
And so like John Boy survives because this 13-year-old girl stopped him from his worst instincts.
Right. And we saw the best part about it is like because Black doesn't he doesn't shy away from them doing shitty things. Like he actually killed Blueface earlier and lied to her about it. She's like, you didn't kill him. No, I didn't. Completely flat out lied to her about it. You could tell he felt bad about it though.
Oh, dude, that's why that shot right after when he goes outside and he sits in the car and he looks gutted that he just lied to this girl.
Yeah. He doesn't care about the murder. He could give a shit about the killing the guy, but lying to that girl guts him.
Yeah. And
it's just a great moment. It's
a great moment in a great movie. And So this movie came out in 2016. The fact that it's already 7 years old.
Ah, kill me. And we haven't had like 3 sequels by now, or 2, 3 sequels or a show. And
Yeah.
I will throw it out there to that point. Co-produced by our friend Ethan Irwin that we
Yeah.
got with the
Who
movie
we
Trivia
worked with at the
Showdown.
Showdown. Yeah.
I got to have a great conversation with him once. When I was doing the Showdown after show called Chilled Action, we had an interview with him, and we talked about other different things. And this is one of the things we touched base on, and it's one of the few scoops in my life, so I live on it. Is the fact that he told me about this whole like thing about having 2 scripts penned by Black, 2 sequel scripts that were sitting in his top desk drawer that he couldn't produce because he couldn't get the financing for it after the poor box office showing. But I'm like, can you just like send me those scripts? Can I just like take a look at them? I never got a chance to look at them, unfortunately. But the fact that there's 2 scripts done, ready to go. Russell Crowe would absolutely do it. He said he would do it. Ryan Gosling has said he would do it. Absolutely. I'm sure Angourie Ray should come back, even though she's a little older now for the role. Like, I just feel like it's there. Make it in this day and age of streaming services that you could make one of those movies into a streaming show. This would be a perfect show. You can make both those.
Do it as a miniseries,
right? Our limited series.
Do it as a miniseries. Like,
I mean, we do that 6-episode series now. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's such a bummer. So to your point, the movie comes out and like WB was all in on this movie. Yeah. It was actually, as far as like R-rated action comedy type things go, it was one of like, arguably for me, one of the most interesting pushes marketing wise, because they went all in. They marketed this movie for almost a year. I don't remember if you remember that, but like there was 3 separate trailers over the span of almost a year, and they really were trying to ride that Deadpool wave because Deadpool had hit so big that February and it was R-rated, and they were like, well, if that can make big money, we can too. So they went all in on this movie. And then it just craters at the box office. Like, the audience does not show up.
How sad. And look at the thing about it is, like, I blame the audience. I blame us as part of the audience. Whoever. I mean, I went to see it.
I saw it several times.
If you think about it, like, this is such a unique thing. This was a non-IP, original story, R-rated action comedy, and it was brilliantly done. And it couldn't find an audience. And it's like, what are we doing here? This is where, as much as like I'm guilty of loving IP as much as the next person. I love Star Wars. I'm going to go to every Marvel movie. I love all those things. I get hyped up for everything like that. But God, the uniqueness of these, the film, like it's. I want more of these also. I want to live in a world where we can have both IP and these kind of completely one-off concepts.
Yeah, and the bummer is like, honestly, this movie was made for $50 million. It probably could have been made for a little less, but if it had even cracked like $100 million, I think that the conversation for a sequel would have been a lot more intensive.
Yeah.
But like, it continues to find its audience. People love this fucking movie, and yet for some reason they just did not show up. And I feel like, honestly, if you made a sequel to it now, a sequel to this movie would double at least what it did, but I would say it probably triples that. I say it makes almost $200 million at this point.
In the actual box office, you think?
Yeah.
I like to think so too, and I see where you're coming from now. I'm not totally sold on that like you are, but I definitely can see a world where it could happen, absolutely. But I think you could even slice the price down. A streaming movie, for example, would make it successful too, because they could actually do this for streaming and people would go to see the movie because they have to go to their couch and watch it. They're much more likely to watch it that way, right? Yeah. So you could see that happening too, because you could do this completely as a streaming movie, a streaming sequel, and make a bang amount of money as well from it. But I would prefer, of course, as a theater person, to see it in theaters. So don't listen to me.
Yeah,
make it in theaters.
Yeah, dude, it was so funny because I went opening day and I remember walking in and just being sad because there was no one there.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, man. Like, I didn't want to believe that it was going to be like that. And here we are. And anyway, that's why we're doing this. Like, it's to try to get people to discover this movie.
Yeah,
and
please.
If you've never seen this movie, number one, I'm hoping that you've watched it at this point because we're talking about it. I really am. If you're not, what the hell are we doing here?
Yeah.
But Shane Black finally was like, I want to do a follow-up basically to Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, because for a long time he had said he'd like to do another movie in the vein of that.
Right.
Like, he really I think had Kiss Kiss Bang Bang even done better, like, I think there's a world where they very much probably would have just done a sequel, but, like, it does fine, and it's a smaller movie, and they don't necessarily need to make a sequel to it. But he goes, "I
Kiss
kinda
Kiss
wanna do something similar."
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang actually doesn't feel like a good sequelized property. Like it felt like a good standalone story.
Yeah.
This
Now,
one,
you could
it could,
have found
could
a
have,
way, right? Like,
100%
there's
could have.
there's easy ways to work around "Oh, hey, they find a way that someone comes to them with another mystery after everything that happens, and they
Right,
kinda get embroiled and, like, wrapped up in another thing." There's
100%.
plenty of ways to do it. Would it have probably been forced? Yes. Would I
Yes,
still have watched it? Also,
100%.
yes.
I'm just saying
Uh,
that this one definitely lends
but
itself
this
more
right.
to this is like setting up a franchise in a
I
way.
was gonna
You
say this
totally
one
could
is
have done.
straight up sets up one.
This
Like
could have been the new Lethal Weapon to a degree. Like obviously different kinds of stories and everything, but like the same kind of like buddy comedy kind of thing. They could have gone for
uh-huh.
at least 4 or 5 films and been brilliantly done in
Oh,
it.
absolutely. So we have this world where this is all kind of happening, right? And then the movie comes out, and all of us are real sad because this movie is, again, everything we've said. It's funny, it's got great action, the script is great, the cast is great. Shane Black is at his most Shane Blackiness. Like, this is his magnum opus in so many ways to me. The fact that we have to have this conversation almost being and he's also, like, coming off of Iron Man 3, which people were, like, weirdly
Divided about.
divisive over,
Yeah.
which I still personally don't really understand.
I
Like, I
loved
don't
Iron Man
understand the
3.
divide yeah, it is my favorite of that franchise.
I think it's very personal, and it does, like I said, uh, this is peak Shane Black, and I stick to that. But I think the humor and action worked very well together at Iron Man 3 as well. I mean, it was different. It's a different kind of humor action mix that Iron Man had had before. And I think that might have been why people were turning against it because it kind of felt like a different kind of thing. But to me, I'm kind of like, it's okay because we obviously had a different director. It was going to be a different thing anyway. You might as well lean into it. I mean, comic books have different runs. It's like a comic movie should have would be a comic book. You have a new writer in a comic book, they might change the tone a little bit. And maybe change it. It's still successful. It's still fun. It's still the same character, just a little different tweak at it.
100%. So, it's just very, looking at it, my mind just blanked mid-sentence. I don't know what the hell just happened. I was with you, and my mind just
It's early for you out there.
is
It's
early
early for
for
you.
me. Okay, so the point is in all of this, we love this movie,
Yes.
and we've been singing the praises for this movie since it came out, both of us together, and I'm just glad that we can do this right now because anything to get more eyes on this movie, is good, and any eyes on Iron Man 3 is better and people understanding it. Now I remember where I was going with all
Good.
of this, and look
Good.
at me wrapping it all around.
I like
Because
that.
Iron Man 3, equally as looked down upon as it was, also still managed to make over $1 billion at the box office with the Avengers bump because it was the first post Avengers movie. And like people were weird about that movie.
Hmm.
And then the Nice Guys came out, and people just didn't go.
Yep.
And it's kind of weird because like that Black has always had a very odd career where his movies feel a little more divisive overall than they probably should when he's doing stuff that's not Lethal Weapon. Like
Mm.
Monster Squad, he writes and doesn't do very well. It kind of bombs. It's not divisive, but it's more like a universal monster love letter for children,
Yeah.
and it's not really for everyone. Then Last Boy Scout comes out, and like Last Boy Scout is either real loved or real hated by most people if you've seen it. Like there's not a lot of in between. Last Action Hero, same thing. Long Kiss Goodnight, same thing. So his entire career is kind of this way,
Yeah.
which is weird. Like he writes movies that people like you and I love, but then the audience is kind of like, what do I make of this?
I think it's too quirky for some people. I think that's
Yeah.
part of the problem. It gets like because some people like their action movies, some people like their comedy movies, and when you mix them like Shane Black does, like they don't know which way they're going, and they can't handle. I'm not saying they can't handle it. I don't think they like to be able to try to mix them too much. Some people like them just straightforward, and that's okay too. I mean, I get that.
Oh yeah,
Some
for
people like
sure.
their equalizers kind of thing. Some people would like the straight ahead comedy, like I don't know, you're looking of your like Shaun of the Dead or something like that. But this is like much more a very action comedy mix. It has great action, it has a great story, and
Great
but
sense
the
of
humor is
mystery.
there. And great central mystery. It's a very complicated central mystery. You're following like, oh, okay, okay. You kind of it's you get led along very well along with the characters, but the characters themselves are very quirky and unique, and that's what makes them
Well,
so
so is the
great.
movie,
Yeah,
because to that point, we talked about this during Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, but like it's always a gamble to have your movie have narration. It
yep,
doesn't always land correctly. This movie takes a real big swing with two different characters narrating the movie at the same time
right,
in the beginning, and they're coming from very different places, but it ends up being so perfect because they're the first 20 minutes, they're so separate,
right,
and their stories are intertwined, but neither character realizes it. And so you have to build these characters out until their worlds collide.
right.
And it's so well done, and it tells you everything you need to know about both Jackson Healy and Holland March. And it also gives you a chance to see them as characters before they're interacting together, which
Hmm.
is really important because they need to be able to be good characters on their own who also have great chemistry when they're not or when they're together.
Right.
So the fact that we get so much time with them separately before they become those characters is really fantastic.
Agreed. Agreed. Because they set up so much in so little of a time. It's actually the same thing that I said works so well about Lethal Weapon one is that we get to learn a lot by them just showing who they are without getting into too much backstory. Like, you just do some things that are in character, small little bits, but you get to know who they are. For example, Jackson Healy's introduction. Perfect. He starts talking about himself. He's like, it's almost like almost comically like reductive in a way. It's a very big like, I'm a guy, I'm from the thing. You can't find me in the yellow pages, but if you
Yeah.
need somebody, you might ask around for Jackson Healy. And he comes around. What is he doing though? What is he? He's not just roughing up somebody for the wrong reasons. He's roughing up a guy who's messing around with a 13-year-old girl. So it's like you automatically you're on his side. You kind of get the point. Okay, so he's a ruffian. So he's like a gun for hire, a ruffian for a thug for hire, so to speak. But
Well, and
yet
he
he
even
picks the
says,
right reasons to do it almost in a way.
yeah, and to your point, like, he says right out the gate too. He goes, "Grew up Italian in the Bronx." Like I said, he's an enforcer type. He's a
Yep,
tough guy.
absolutely.
Yeah. Are you the man?
Hey man,
What?
what?
Stop stop messing with underage girls. Like,
It's
what
so
a
good.
great line.
Right? And yet, you also a couple minutes later you get to hear from him, and you realize that again he's not a good guy. He makes some tough choices. Like when he gets hired to go find Holland, she's like, "This it's this girl who like Amelia, who's all like very upset. She's very obviously saddened. Like it's almost like, oh, is she like just using her feminine wiles or the woman tears to break down this tough guy?" He takes the envelope, and what did he say? He's like, whatever. He's like, yeah, you're short
Y-
$7.
Yeah, you're short. Also, Margot Qualley in this was the first time I really remember seeing her in anything, and she's really good in this too.
Yeah, yeah, she has a great role. Like it's a small role, but when she gets the chance to shine, she really solid. Absolutely.
Yeah, I always like her in anything, to be honest. Again, she's just very talented. She's
Yeah,
another one of those young up and coming actresses
yeah,
that has been worth watching. I liked her a lot in The Leftovers,
yeah,
but like she hadn't really done movies
right.
until this.
She's Andy McDowell's daughter, right? That's
Yeah.
right. Okay. Yeah.
Um so that's really really cool. And then of course with the Gosling of it all, when you meet him, like this, they don't even say it up front because the way he's talking about how things have been in his life, like you meet him he's in a suit in a bathtub full of water.
Right.
His daughter calls because it's her birthday. He starts to realize what a fuck up he's been, and he starts going out in. They're also trying to establish, it's the 70s, so there's a lot going on in this time period. So you see like the him waiting for gasoline because of the gasoline lines, which wow, that seems relevant today.
Mhm.
Um, but in the conversations he's having as he's talking to the audience, he kind of establishes this idea that he and his wife are no longer together. And it's not until later that you realize that it's because she's dead. Because there's
Yeah.
this whole line where he's talking about divorce and all this stuff, and so you just assume she left him.
Right. It's a nice tease. It's a way to like misdirect.
Yeah.
It's good. I agree.
It's good. It's great writing.
Yeah,
And you're
100%.
like, man, he's kind of like, okay, that tracks. So she left. So he's a fuck up. And like, that's why he kind of is the way he is, which is probably why he's estranged from his daughter. And then for it to be like, no, actually, it's that he's estranged from her because they just like they have fallen apart since she died.
Right. And it's like the thing is too, like again, with the good writing that it is, it does leave you those breadcrumbs because like if they had just divorced, why is this fuck up who has a tattoo of "You will never be happy" on your hand? Why is he the custody guy? Why is the
Right.
PI? Why is he the one that has custody of the daughter at this point? It's almost like
Right.
this show. Is she even worse, or is she just not around because she's dead?
Be honest with me. Am I a bad person? Yes. Like the way she says it to him. And that's the thing too, is that again, we've said it before, but Holly as a character, Angourie Rice is just so excellent and she adds so much soul to the movie. And I think that is why this movie ends up flourishing so well. Because at the end of the day, the one thing Kiss Kiss Bang Bang doesn't have is that like conscious voice throughout the movie who is trying to push all of these guys to be better.
Right.
And pushing the people around them to be better. And like, there's also this kind of fun commentary on the people in the 70s, like Holland and Jackson being like, man, this younger generation, what are they going to do? Like, they're all such fuck ups. Like, look at the boys that poor Holly's going to have to deal with, like all this stuff, the Chets of the world. And the Chet character is hysterical, cracks me up, just very funny. That's Jack Kilmer, by the way.
That's right. I forgot about that.
That is indeed Jack Kilmer, which I thought was a nice nod of adding him into the movie, obviously, because I think they would have done anything in their power to get Val, but for obvious reason, you can't necessarily get Val these days.
Right. Yeah. Or even those days, yeah, at this point.
Right. Like every once in a while, yes, Top Gun Mavericks of the world, but that's a entirely different type of thing.
Yeah.
So you look at it and they're kind of having this same conversation that we have, right? About
I'm sorry. Or also now they just checked the kid on the bike too. I forget that.
Oh yeah, dude. Butler.
$20 because I got a big dick.
No one wants to see your dick, kid. Like that. One of the I gotta say, man, Gosling is on another level in this movie.
It really
this is Gosling's best performance.
I think so too.
I really mean that. Like, he is an incredible actor who has given incredibly nuanced performances in so many things, but this movie lets him be the most bumbling, fun, but also nuanced character that he's ever gotten to play.
Because he gets to play against type.
Yes.
Like, Ryan Gosling is this Hollywood heartthrob. Like, he's fucking playing Ken in the Barbie movie because like he's so like such a gorgeous heartthrob tongue kind of guy. And here he's playing this like bumbling, down his luck, dirty, conniving, earthy, like scumbag kind of a detective. And he does it so well. He does it so well.
Wow, you put a real negative spin on that. I mean, you get the gist of it, but which was one of my favorite lines in the movie too, because that's who he is as the character when, going back for more money wow, you really put a negative spin on that. I mean, it's not wrong, but like, God, he's so good in this movie. Yeah. And it's so funny because like not long before this, he does Gangster Squad, right? Yep. And Gangster Squad is kind of like a similar type of movie in a lot of ways of the detective type movie, that like throwback pulp type thing, but he plays it so straight, like he's not having fun in it.
Right.
And the difference is almost night and day.
He's definitely having fun in this one.
And not just having fun, like the time of his life. And he and Crow are clearly like so great together that you can tell that they were just having fun hanging out on set.
Oh, 100%. Like, you tell me, like, if you told me that they hate each other, I would like not even buy it because like they are just having so much fun together, the entire time. And that's what makes this work. That's why Lethal Weapon work, because that Danny Glover and Mel Gibson. I keep bringing up Lethal Weapon because they had the Shane Black of it, and because that's actually what inspired these little run of movies we're on. But
Right.
they get that chemistry together. You can't replicate that. You can't make that work. You can't force chemistry to work. And when it doesn't work, it can really fuck up your movie. But when it does work, and you're in a good movie, it's gold. It's absolute gold.
100%, man. And that's kind of what this is. Like everything about this movie ends up being specifically like gold and lightning in the bottle sort of weird timing of how you get this specific cast with this director with this script at this time when a studio would willingly back this movie. And like again, we haven't even like brushed the surface of some of the people. Like you have Kim Basinger in this movie,
Yeah.
Downey Jr. in his uncredited cameo as Sid Shattuck or Sid Hatrack. No one's name is Hatrack.
Keith
Hannibal
David?
Buress as Bumble.
Keith David?
Yeah, Keith David as Eddie Harris, and of course Ty
Wait, did you
Simpson.
say Ed Harris? Sorry, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Eddie Harris, motherfucker, and Hannibal Buress voices Bumble.
You know what's funny too? Actually, think about this. I'm joking around now a little bit, but the Eddie Harris thing. That's actually the name of the pitcher in Major League.
Yes, it is.
So I don't know if that's a throwback or not to that. I don't know. Maybe Shane Black's a Major
Honest,
League fan.
or not to like stroke your ego a little bit, but maybe it was originally written for the potential of Ed Harris as Eddie Harris, because also known as older guy.
I can totally have seen him in that role. Absolutely, he could have done
That's
that
what
role.
I mean. Like, there's a world where I can see that being written for Ed Harris.
Ed Harris versus Russell Crowe. I'd have given you. That'd been a lot of fun.
I mean, it would have made. Maybe that would have made all the money.
That would have done it. I would have. Well, I would have gone there 500 times. So.
I mean, I know you would have. There you go. That damn man. If they had just not that I don't want Keith David to be in this movie because I love Keith David.
I love Keith David. And I love Keith David in this movie. So like, yeah, no shades over to Keith David at all.
No, not even a little bit. I think he is so fantastic in this movie, and it's very rare that he gets to be kind of a big shiny star like that in a movie. As weird as that sounds, because again, we talk a lot about character actors on here. Keith David, all-time character actor.
Oh yeah,
he just is.
100%.
Like he's fantastic. I love Keith David.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we got him in a lot of the John Carpenter stuff at the beginning. He has a great 80s. I mean, I want to say great 80s, but he's been just great throughout his entire career. You kind of forget he's there, and then he pops up. The Riddick movies. I mean, he's like got moments like Armageddon. He's got all the
Barbershop. People forget he's in the first Barbershop, and I think he's great. He's the loan shark. He's fantastic in it.
Absolutely. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Agent Cody Banks. Agent Cody Banks, like the Young movies. It's like
he was also in Head of State, I want to say. Now that I think about it.
I think you're right. Yeah, I believe so.
Like, I'm trying to think about it. Like, you look at it, and this dude's just been in all of the things. Dead Presidents, like The Quick and the Dead.
What I love about it, if you look at his filmography, he does so many movies a year because he's not a leading actor. He just kind of hits these little roles, gets to film and things. So gets to be in so many cool things.
The Replacements.
Yeah.
Replacements. Like, he's great in that. And I loved him in Hercules, like, as weird as that sounds. Volcano, which is an all-time movie for me.
Nope.
Like, oh my God, just everything, man. That he's just good. Like, he's in so many things. Yeah, Head of State. There it is. Bernard Cooper. I just stupid talented, this guy. And of course, I think he's one of the all-time great Disney villains in Princess and the Frog as Dr. Facilier. Like, what a great character.
And speaking of Ed Harris, he's also in Eye for an Eye in 1996.
Yeah, see? So, and he's still working, like, all the time. That's the thing, is he's just always working, which just tells you how much people like working with him.
Absolutely. He's the kind of guy, I feel like he doesn't cost a lot of money. Like, and he's like, you can get him for not he's cheap probably, but you can get him for less, and he's going to deliver a tremendous performance. He's one of those guys. Like I always talk about Ed Harris when I do like the Ed Harris game on Class Action. He's one of those character actors. He can make a good movie great. He can make a bad movie watchable. So
absolutely.
You just put him in your film, like it adds that certain level of gravitas to it. That you're like, nice.
He's in Roadhouse. I forgot he
Yes.
was in Roadhouse. Shit, I need to rewatch Roadhouse. Also, Braddock, Missing in Action 3. That
3.
is hysterical. I did not remember him being in that either. I've only seen those movies once.
It's been a while since I've seen that. Speaking of movies I haven't seen in a while, Steven Seagal, Marked for Death. Marked for Death he was in. That's right.
Somewhere Maddie just exploded.
Yep. He hates that. Oh, Men at Work. I forgot he was in Men at Work.
See, that's what I'm saying. Anyway, we could go down Keith David rabbit hole forever. The point is the dude is stupid talented and he's really great in this movie. And him being like the henchman villain is just perfect, and he's so mouthy in the right way, and he basically only interacts with Russell Crowe, which makes it better. Although the stuff with him and Gosling in the third act is really great too.
Yeah.
But he's got that kind of confidence when he's playing off of a dude like Crowe that just works, because you need to be able to exude the same type of charm in the way that, you know, he does.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's charm. They both have a certain amount of charm that they get. Again, we've already mentioned how, he's not it's not that Crowe is a good guy in this movie. He's not a good guy, but he's a dirtbag too.
He's a nice guy.
He's a nice guy. I gotta tell you, it's funny. I gotta throw something. Just not to take completely off the trails for a second. When I watch these, I don't think I've ever told you this. When I do this show, I have the movie playing in the background. Like,
wait, really?
I put it on the background while it's like it's muted, but once in a while I catch my eye on something, and I'm like, because it always it reminds me of something. I just got about one of my favorite sequences. We talked about Ryan Gosling and his daughter, and she goes, "You are the world's worst detective."
Really, the world's worst.
The world's worst. Somebody's like, I got a nice ad though too. So it's so.
Oh, dude, it's so good.
Oh, also, God, I love this scene.
Not just this scene. The very first scene between Jackson and Holland is fantastic.
Oh, God.
When Gosling shows up at the house, we're gonna play a game. The game is you don't talk unless you're me. I love that game.
You got it now? I got it now. I got it now. He definitely got it now. He still goes for the gun again.
Yeah.
I got it now. All right, put a fork in me. I'm done. Don't actually put a fork in me.
This movie is full of incredible dialogue. It's so quotable. And I think that's the other thing is, like, again, we don't get a lot of movies like this, unfortunately, these days. And so for a movie like this that gets to be so quotable, so fun, so freewheeling with such a great cast to boot, like, it becomes something of a comfort movie. And that's, I think, why so many of us go back and watch it. And then we get all sad that we didn't get more of them, because the more you watch it, the more you're like, man, this is really good. And it's central mystery revolving around, like the car companies for the 70s is so smart and such a like well done thing, but also to like mix it with the rise of porn in that time. Yeah, like, because porn was such a, and still is really to this day, but is like such a divisively dark issue for so many people. And so for them to take like these big companies like the car companies and then like taking the porn industry and the way it all kind of becomes intertwined, that the porn industry people are trying to like protect the country and like trying to get what is happening out through their movie, like it's actually super fascinating.
It is. It's like, and I this is probably a poor choice of words, but I don't know how else to say it. It's the romantic era of the porn industry.
Yeah,
like it's that romanticized version. Like it's the
all
people getting together. It's just forming this big thing. Yeah, there's a seedier side to it, and we see that every once in a while, Boogie Nights and things like that. But on a surface level, for this kind of movie, it's kind of like that's what you see. It's just the fun side of things and everything else, how they're loose and everything else, like the misty mountains of it all. Like I love the beginning of the movie. You get Ty Simpkins from Iron Man 3. Ty Simpkins.
Who's also coming back for Insidious 5, which looked fucking rad.
Speaking of a great trailer, yes, that's something we should talk about before, but we didn't. No, but I agree. Ty Simpkins in there, and all of a sudden the car comes through, and it shows you right away with the movie, because Ty Simpkins is still a pretty young kid at this point.
Yeah,
he's a young. Car crashes through misty mountains, gets ejected from the car, and he looks down at her, and there she is.
And he was just looking at a magazine with her.
Just at a Ford magazine with her, right? Exactly. It's like, this is a kid looking at it in a way. I go, a kid. I mean, he's a teen or whatever, but it's that's the kind of movie it sets up to be right away. It's that kind of like there's a seediness to it, but there's an innocence to it.
And him covering her up is such a like
Great moment.
Great
Yes.
little moment because here he is. He's this like probably young preteen kid who's still figuring out his hormones and shit. And so he finds this porn
His
magazine
dad's
he
porn mag,
takes.
yeah.
Yeah. And he's going to look at it. And then he sees the same girl he was just looking at, and she's naked in front of him, and he covers her.
Right.
And it's such a like innocent moment in a like very dark moment.
Right.
And it
Absolutely.
works and it's great. And again, like Black is always good at that. He
Yes.
always has been. He's really good at finding light in a dark place. What like that's why the Riggs character is so great. It's the thing we talked about with the Lethal Weapon movies.
Yep.
Like he was really good at finding light in a dark place when you may not necessarily. And one of the things that, you know, in my rewatch of this, and I've always compared the two as we go through, but like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and The Nice Guys, they share so much in their DNA and like sequences within the movie themselves. Like the party sequence is the Kiss Kiss Bang Bang party sequence, but done now by a director who has figured out how to navigate this in a way that actually feels tight and like
Right.
story driven and interesting because their functions are the same, but one feels so much more fast and loose in like the dirty, grimy 2000s LA. And this one is like almost the antithesis of this in the 70s porn industry one, but
Yeah.
also like it feels like it's moving and there's like momentum, you know, like it still serves its purpose. It's still a little freewheeling,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it matters. And it also leads to Gosling doing like when he falls down the hill and then he finds Downey Jr.'s body and
Right.
like his reaction to it, he has this bumbling Costello style moment that is so good.
Yep. Yep.
And I will never not love that. Like the way he's like, and he's trying, yeah, and he's trying so hard, but it's like a straight 1930s, 1940s Abbott and Costello style sketch moment.
Absolutely. I mean, if you could hear like the girlish screams he uses when he gets up there. First of all, when he gets his arm cracked, he has that girlish scream. But then, like exactly that moment you're talking about, get down here!
Yeah.
It's such a perfect. It's a perfect tribute to that kind of situation. I love it so much.
Oh, it's
Um,
perfect, man. And that's every time I think about it, I'm just like, that is why this movie is so damn good.
mhm.
Really, because he just knew that if he could like be a love letter to all these things and do it well, and he'd become such a refined filmmaker at that point, it
Yeah.
just sings, dude.
And I love the fact what it does too is the whole film subverts expectations all the time. One of the things I noticed most again, I just saw it in the background again. It reminded me of it. The fact that we talked about how it's a great mystery, right?
Mhm.
And how it makes you think. She calls him the world's worst detective, and he comes up with this brilliant thing where he sees the thing on the pad. He's like, "Well, you're not going to. You shouldn't go to the airport because it means this, you idiot." Like it's almost like the Sherlockian Holmes moment, and as the audience, you're like, he's showing himself as a great detective. And what
Yeah.
happens? They drive over the place he thinks it is, and then burn down for like 2 years like that. And, like, and they did just take a minute, like a second pause. All right, let's go to the airport.
Well, and not just that, and then it's the continual. There were buildings there. I'm sure there were.
There were.
No, but there were. No, it's okay.
Okay,
And
yeah.
they have a flight curfew. It's all right,
No, it's
dude.
all
Like,
right,
let's
it's
just
all
get
right.
to the airport. Like, again, great moment. And he's a great detective who's a terrible detective.
Yes. He has moments of brilliance and then moments of shit as well. It's kind of like his whole thing is being a father. I mean, honestly speaking, he obviously, what you don't see in this kind of story usually. Usually, you're either a good father or you're a bad father. He is a guy who loves his daughter tremendously, just isn't a
Oh
good
shit.
father. Just isn't a good
Uh,
father.
real quick, I'm
Okay.
gonna interrupt
Breaking
us.
news. Breaking news.
Yeah, actually, legitimately.
Huh.
And it's a small thing, and I hate to do this while we're here because now it kind of actually ties into something I was talking about on here earlier, funny
Oh,
enough.
interesting.
We have gotten the title of the fourth film in the Conjuring franchise,
Oh,
The Conjuring Last Rites.
I hate it in some ways, but I get what they're going for. But Why? Is it the last film supposedly in the franchise at this point?
It sounds like it.
I mean, Last Rise could mean a lot of different things, but
I had to tell you, I just thought it was really funny that I had like been so aggravated by that earlier, and then there's the title.
oh well. All right. Well, we are going to do that film in our franchise because we actually did the Conjuring franchise. I think that's the first thing we. Oh no,
That's the
Scream.
first thing we ever
We
did.
did
I'm
Scream.
sure.
We did Scream, and then we did Conjuring. But we're going to go back and do that when it comes out for sure, because we love all of that stuff. But
we
interesting.
definitely do. Yeah. So anyway, I had to break that while we were here. I apologize for that. I just thought that was very, very curious.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, so back to the Nice Guys, since we are starting to run out of time a little bit. Sorry.
How dare you?
I know. So I was saying, like, so Holland March is like he's that interesting in between character where he absolutely loves his daughter, but it's a terrible father. But I think it adds such depth to the role. It adds such depth to the character as a whole, and it actually leads to great performance from Angry Rice for the same reason, because she gets to be the daughter who knows her dad's a fuck up, but yet as an innocent kid still forgives him all the time. She always ends up forgiving him. She goes through pieces where she hates him, but she always comes back to him because she knows at the end of the day, and he's kind of doing the best he can, which isn't very good, but he is doing the best he can at times.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that ultimately, again, right, to the point of everything we've talked about, that's why Angourie Rice is so damn good in this movie, because you need that character to centralize him.
Mm-hmm.
And without that relationship, you can't have that type of character growth and that type of like back and forth, if you will, of how do I be a better father and a better detective at the same time. And like, as it turns out, the three of them together make the best version of that team.
Absolutely. And this is why, God, we need sequels.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm serious. Like, it's almost a slap in the face at this point that it hasn't happened. And again, I can't blame WB.
No, it's a business. It's a business, and to make the money it's going to make. But I feel like you can make money on this if you do it the right way, because you have definitely earned your laurels as far as being a cult classic, whatever you want to call it. It's got an audience. It feels like it's a good risk. You can risk yourself. There's a lot of risks you take in movies. It's something that you have an audience for. It was a small audience, but it's definitely built up a following over the years.
100%.
Take a risk, because Gosling's only gotten bigger. I mean, Crow's kind of stayed the same. Not gonna lie,
but it's also Crow. I mean, like,
but it's also Crow,
all
right?
like Russell Crowe, right? Like, it just is.
Right, absolutely. I mean, and so there's no reason not to take a swing at this point.
I'm almost shocked that they haven't, just because it has gotten so popular over the last several years that it just surprises me that it is this weirdly kind of sitting there where you see it all the time. And now, granted, I also know that like Twitter is not real life, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I have to wonder, like, when you see the internet so frequently going, hey, where's our sequel? Why is this not happened? And it happens all the time. Like, so frequently. I see it all the time. I'm one of those people, and you see it, and then even if you tweet about the Nice Guys, every one of the times that I've tweeted about the Nice Guys, it manages to like get some sort of traction. I don't know why, but that just goes to show the staying power of this movie.
Even a day where your tweets not showing out as much as you left Twitter blue. Ever since then.
Yeah.
But even without that, I've seen a lot of engagement on your Nice Guys tweets for the exact reason. I think a lot of people love this movie. A lot of people discovered this movie. We can say it a million times.
We could. And I mean, I want to, because I continue to want to praise the damn movie.
I'm sure everyone wants to. That's what he said too. He said he wanted to do it himself. But.
Well, even didn't Russell Crowe just recently say that they were even like talking about it again up until like very recently? So I mean, the conversations are still there. That core team still wants to do that.
Could happen. Absolutely, still could happen at some point. That's what
I'm not going to get my hopes up just because I feel like we've been here for so long. Like at this point, it just doesn't feel in the realm of possibility. But I would love for down the line, because legacy sequels are very popular these days, and maybe you do one at the 10-year mark, and
Maybe
you set it in the
is.
80s now.
You know, that's actually not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I mean, he does say, the most recent thing from a couple weeks ago, April 6th, Russell Crowe reveals a title for the Nice Guys sequel he and Ryan Gosling came up with. I didn't actually read this article. We wanted to call it Nice Guys, the Mexican Detectives. It's me and Ryan, so now we've got to pretend we're Mexican detectives.
I mean, that'd be really hilarious, actually.
Here it is, actually. Here, let's see. We tried it as a TV show, Blackshare was filmed back in 2022. We caught the characters, but the plot was totally different. It was set in present day, and no one wanted to buy it. We had to look elsewhere.
So they've still tried.
While we would have gotten more time, the characters, Black admitted was relieved the product didn't move forward as a TV series, detailing that it wouldn't have been as good as a TV series, as tonally TV tends to homogenize. So if you've got something that's a little odd or twisted, chances are network executives are going to take it and just start sanding off the edges.
I mean, that's not wrong.
But Black confirmed how passionate he is about making a sequel if he could only find someone to give him money for it.
Well, there's still a potential of a world where they'll do it.
If people keep wanting to do it, they tend to find ways to get it done eventually. So.
Yeah, 100%. I was going to say, like, if they decide they want to have this done and find a way to do it, it will happen.
Yeah.
And I can hope that it will.
And, absolutely.
I mean, look, I could continue to gush about this movie, but I know that you got to get out of here soon, so we got to kind of wrap this up. I just want to touch on a couple of things, though, real quick before we get out of here. I think the third act of this movie is really, really excellent.
Yes.
And it's super, super fun. And again, this felt like Black finally coming into his own as a filmmaker because the action's like really well staged, and it's like a really big action set piece set in one place, and I never don't know what's going on, and I love the way that every piece plays into every moment and every movement. Like every action is played off into another moment. Like nothing is done just to do it, which I thought was super fantastic. And Matt Bomer is so good in his reveal as the third act villain.
So brilliant. I mean, you kind of understand. You're like Angry Rice. You kind of think that something's wrong as soon as you see him.
Yeah,
because he's just so.
He just looks slimy.
Yeah, exactly. He just seems like a serpent. Like, it's a way to strike. But his reveal when he does actually eventually reveal it, so good, so good. It's kind of like, oh well, all right. I guess you got me. Now I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah, dude. And he's so good, and it's so funny because he was for the longest time he was one of my choices for Superman.
Yeah.
And then this came out, and I was like, honestly, I can almost see him as Batman. Like, there's a part of him that's got like a dark underside.
Oh yeah.
I was like, God damn, dude! Like you are so good.
I wish, I mean, I've always liked him and everything he's done, but this one just felt very different than anything he ever done before.
Oh, 100%, and that's why it worked, right? Like because it played so against what we knew of him.
Yeah, 100%.
I do love too that this movie kind of leans in the same way that Kiss Kiss Bang Bang did, but it was like because Downey Jr. was an unreliable narrator, it had a sense of like fantasy, and that's why like the random Abraham Lincoln cameo kills me every time because it's just so fucking random.
It's so good.
But in this one, like there is also a sense of fantasy with Gosling's character, which I thought was very interesting. Like between the falling asleep behind the wheel thing and like the Bumble cameo. And then again, I brought this up, the fucking Nixon cameo. Like again, I love that the Nixon cameo, it's not random because like it is set up within the movie why it gets there.
Right.
So there's two different ways to look at things. Why didn't you just fucking say that? Like, just say that. You take me on this epic fucking journey just to get to the conclusion that there's two different ways to look at things.
I just said that. I gotta throw it in there. What's that? That's so clever because like
Oh,
that happens in
so
movies all the time, and the
yeah.
audience kind of almost feels like that sometimes. Like that was a big story just to say that. And Gosling says what you're kind of feeling sometimes, but then it comes across it's like hurt by. I was like, what? You didn't like the story? You didn't like the story?
I like the story. You take me on this epic fucking journey, when all you could have just said is, you know,
See
there's
a
two
different
ways to
ways.
look at
This
things.
is
You
like,
just say that. Just say that. It's a great moment and it's so fun, but like you have this because of that, the Nixon thing is so hysterical when Nixon's in the fucking pool telling him to get out of the water. And you're like, what the fuck is happening?
what the fuck is happening?
Ugh. Again, I wonder what Black's entire like feel, if you will, for putting dead presidents or interesting presidents in a movie that way is.
He's got to have talked about it somewhere, hasn't he?
I've never looked.
I haven't looked either, so I do kind of want because I do kind of want to look at it myself. So, but either way, yeah, it's such a great storyline. We haven't really talked much about Kim Basinger in a good meaty role for her as
And she's
the
in it so little too, which is
yeah,
so surprising.
but she gets good bang for her buck kind of thing. Great performances.
100%.
One of my favorite sequences, my favorite moments, like comedic moments. She originally is going to hire them to say to find her daughter, and she goes, "Okay, I'm going to pay anything." She starts writing out the check, 10,000. He's like, "It's going to cost at least $5,000." Stop. Rip up the check.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it was so hysterical. Just a good moment. She was going to pay them so much more than they even thought that they could.
Double what they're gonna pay. Double what they're just like gonna charge or whatever. It's so
Oh,
fun.
dude, it's so good. It's so funny.
Let's try to wrap up some things like some of the last minute like hits you want to make. I want to throw in there one thing we didn't talk about the protesters on the ground. They're protesting the birds dying from the smog. Also
Yeah.
connected to the main series, by the way, of course, the main plot line of the Detroit car industry or whatever. But my God, that moment where he starts talking, like, we can't talk to you. We're dead. And they, all right, yeah, you're all dead. Okay, you died. The gas mask didn't help. You know, who wants to make $20? I do. All right, it's just a great little moment there. I love that. I also love the sequence at the end where we find out that Tally is the villain, as the same according to she's helping the bad guys as well, and turns on Ryan Gosling. And again, another great bit of clever storytelling. We have the fever dream where Ryan Gosling falls asleep in the car. That's where we get the conversation with the bumblebee, with Hannibal Buress. And during that sequence where Russell Crowe supposedly tells Ryan Gosling about his ankle gun. And it's an innocuous piece of information at the time, and we don't even I don't think we even comprehend that it was during the dream that he tells him. So at the end, he goes diving for Crow's ankle gun that doesn't actually exist. Crow's like, "What the hell are you doing?" Like,
well, and also then what the hell is he doing? I don't know. I'm going to ask him.
ask him.
Like, please don't shoot me. I'm just going to ask him.
I don't have an ankle gun. What do you mean I have an ankle? You haven't an sure you showed me the ankle gun. What did I show you there? It was a dream. It was a dream, wasn't it?
It was a dream. It was a dream.
Oh, so good. So good.
It's so good. This whole movie is so good. Like, I could gush about it forever, and unfortunately, we took half an hour not to do it because someone had to have a heart out today.
Well, you know, it also took half an hour to talk about also other things too. But that's okay.
That's what I said.
20 minutes.
There's two ways to look at things, Paul.
I said we were talking about Picard for 20 minutes, but we did.
10 minutes, number 1. Minutes. Don't inflate it.
I will inflate anything I want to inflate.
All right, I don't need to hear about what happens behind closed doors with you. Number 1.
Wow, that's where okay. Fine.
Yeah, you said it, not me.
That's true. It's true. I did say it. I'll own that.
Yeah. This movie rules. I'm just gonna get it out of the way. I know that we do the ratings and stuff here. We turn everything up to 11, right, Paul? Like that's how this works. We're not gonna forget about it today.
We are not gonna forget about it.
I mean, look, man, this is a perfect movie. I'm calling a spade a spade. This is a perfect fucking movie. It's a movie that gets better as it goes on. It's aged incredibly. We deserved at least 5 more of these with this cast. This is an 11 out of 10 if I've ever seen one in my life.
I am going to 100% agree with you.
Yes!
It is nothing wrong with this film. It is a perfect film for me. It's unique. It's fun. It's well acted. It's well written. It's well directed. It's well everything. I got no complaints here. And it's the kind of movie that we should be striving for in the movie theaters all the time. We settle for movies a lot, and that's fine. I get we talked about before. We settle for like Equalizers and so that. I like them. They're fun. They're fine. This is the kind of movie we should strive for.
Yeah. This is 100% the type of movie that we should absolutely be striving for. Dipper clearly agrees.
Dipper is
very
chiming in.
excited about this, but it's just a good movie, man. Like, it's a great movie. In fact, it's an excellent movie. Everything about it just continues to hold up. I'm so glad that we got to sit down and talk about it for a little bit because it's just a good movie, and I'm hoping that the two of us push some of you to watch it if you had never seen it, or if you hadn't seen it in a while and you've revisited it and you fell in love with it again. Perfect. Great. That was what we were hoping for in this. I'm really, really excited for what we're doing next, but I'm a little sad that we don't have more Nice Guys movies to talk about as well.
Yeah, we'll have to revisit at some point. We always got to revisit different things we're going to do, different franchises we're going to do. We're have some in-betweens we're going to do. We talked about doing the MCU in some kind of way, which we're going to break up because we're not going to do them all in one go, obviously. But yeah, but that's going to do it here for us tonight, folks. I appreciate you guys hanging around. If it's your first time here, click that like, click that subscribe. Hopefully you liked what you saw. You'll be back for more. Go check out the rest of the series. We did Lethal Weapon 1 through 4. We did Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. We did Tango and Cash. A lot of fun stuff we talked about already. Next time, in 2 weeks from now, not next week, but the week after, we are going to doing Indiana Jones, the Indiana Jones saga, starting, of course, with PJ's second favorite movie of all time. And it's definitely in my top 10. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Spoiler though, actually, I don't know what I like better. I don't know if I like Raiders or Last Crusade better. That's a debate I'm going to have with you. Discussion I'm going to have with you.
I will respect whatever you come up with, but my debate is, I'm sorry, there's no debate. Raiders is Raiders.
To me, here's what I'll leave it off as. I think Raiders is probably the better movie. Last Crusade might be the better indie movie, if that makes any kind of sense. I'll go into it further later on. But that's where I'm going to leave that for now.
All right.
But yeah, if this I click that like, subscribe. A lot of stuff going on here. I just did my first video editing in like over 20 years. I did a little short for Star Wars animation because I love me some Star Wars. Check that out. Check that out on the podcast. Got Holy Snokes, Star Wars podcast, Class Action, Crown Jewels, our journey through Queen. A bunch of stuff's coming up as well. But if you really liked us and really want to support us, you can join our Patreon, patreon.com/PLD Projects. Have a great crew of people all the time. Just want to shout them out because I get that up. We got Austin Cadell, Jerry Morris, Matty Kern, Brandon Buckingham, Jeff Alterman, John Lestrina. Couldn't do it without you guys. You really helped me with the lights on you and all the rest of you as well. Yeah, that's great news for us. Love you guys so much. But until next time, I guess, where can the folks find you, PJ?
Twitter, Instagram, PJ_Campbell. As long as the Twitter algorithm still wants you to see my tweets. Apparently, it's hard to do these days. I don't know what's going on. Fucking Twitter dying in front of us.
At least I still see your tweets, and I will always engage in your tweets. So
I appreciate that at least. Also, not to totally, break one more thing. We kind of knew this was coming, but as of about 2 minutes ago, it is official. Final Destination 6 is happening.
Yes!
And John Watts has written the story and is producing the film.
I'm very excited about that. It's another one we're going to just think about every time we add a new franchise to our list of things, the problem becomes we have to do some catch up when the sequels come out.
Yeah,
but that's okay. We're all good with it. But I like it though. I'm all good with it. So
me too.
All right, at Paul_Denuzio on Twitter. You can find me every week here on PLD Projects doing numerous podcasts here and there. You can find me producing on the Christian Harloff website as well for the big thing. Yeah, so we will see you next time. Until then, keep rocking, everybody. Stay safe.
Be mediocre.
Always be mediocre. Never underestimate the power of mediocrity. Bye now.
Bye.